Welcome. We're going to be graphing information about speed, distance, and time. You already know how to find either one of these three variables when you know the other two. So you can calculate speed if you're being given the total distance traveled and the total time taken, etc. You can calculate distance if you know speed and the time. You can calculate time taken when you know the distance and the speed. Today we'll be graphing distance traveled as a function of time. So time will be the x variable on the graph, and distance will be the y variable on the graph. In the next lesson, we'll be graphing speed as a function of time. All right, let's get started. This is the beginning of a graph. We are going to be drawing a graph of the distance that I am away from home. The distance from home. And I could write in parentheses kilometers, because the unit that I'll be using is kilometers. And then my x-axis is going to be the time in hours and minutes. Let me draw a line. This is the time that's passed. This is the distance that I am away from home. So here I'm starting at home before the clock starts ticking. Yeah, I'm going to travel. Time is passing and I'm getting further away from my house. Yes? Then I do this. Think about what's happening here. Then I'm traveling further. My line is steeper. And then my line goes back down to where y equals 0. Y equals 0 here. Okay, let's look at what, even without writing any numbers, showing the units, let's see what's happening here. I'm getting further away from home as time passes. Yes, so I'm traveling at a constant speed away from my house. Here the line is horizontal. That shows that the speed I'm traveling in, I'm not getting any further away from my house. I'm at the same distance from my house, even though time passes. So my speed is 0. I'm stationary. Yes? Here I'm traveling again, and as you can see, the line here is steeper than it is here. That means that here I'm traveling at a higher speed than here. So let's write higher speed. Greater speed, I should say. Let's call this a constant speed. This one's also constant. Steady speed. Yeah, so that when we say a higher speed, we mean higher than here. It is also constant though. The speed doesn't change. It is constant along this line. What is happening here? Time is passing and I am getting not further away from my house. The distance from home is not growing, it's decreasing. That means I'm traveling back home, right? Traveling back. So here, when time is passed up to here, I'm back at my house. I'm back at y equals 0. The distance from my house is 0. I just drove back home on my bike. Cool. Let's see if we can answer some questions with the graph that I've just shown. What if I asked you how far I traveled in total away from my house? I'd first have to know what the units are on this scale, right? Say this is 10, this is 20, and this is 30. The total distance that I traveled away from home, distance from home, how far away from home did I go before I came back? Well, 20 kilometers is the furthest I got away from my house, right? I went away from my house up to 20 kilometers away from my house, and then I returned. So distance from home is 20 kilometers. However, what is under here? A cootie. The total distance that I traveled, what would that be? I traveled 20 kilometers away from my house, and then I traveled 20 kilometers back to my house, right? So the total distance covered is 40 kilometers there and back, yeah? Can you tell how long I stopped? We know that I stopped here. Wait, there's something missing. We don't know the time units yet, right? We know here that time is passing. We don't yet know how much time has passed. Let me give you more information. This means 1 hour and 0 minutes. Yes, so here 2 hours have passed. Here, let me draw a little longer of a line. 2 hours and 30 minutes. And here, by the time I come home, 5 hours have passed. Yeah? Now we can answer the question, how long did we stop? How long did I stop to catch my breath from biking? I traveled at a constant speed until 1 hour had passed. Then I just sat there until 2 hours had passed. So how much time is in between there? It's 1 hour. Yeah? 1 hour. My break was 1 hour. Now let's see if we can find out the speeds on these different stretches. So this first stretch, let's call it A. This we already know the speed was 0. So let's call this one B and this one C. Remember, speed is distance traveled divided by the total time taken. Yes? So for A, what is the distance that we traveled? We traveled from our house, 0, to 10 kilometers away from our house. So we traveled 10 kilometers. And how long did that take us? From 0 to 1 hour. So 1 hour. So our speed was 10 kilometers per hour over the stretch that we've labeled A. The stretch here that we've labeled B. How far did we travel? We were 10 kilometers away and we got to 20 kilometers away from the house. So we traveled, on this stretch, we traveled 10 kilometers once again. How long did it take us to travel these 10? It took us from 2 to 2.5 hours past the time we started. So 2 to 2.5. How much time has passed? Half an hour. 1/2 hour. 10 divided by 1/2 is 20 kilometers per hour. And as you can tell, just like we said before, the speed here is higher. The line is steeper, which means the speed is higher than here, which it is, 20 kilometers. That's exactly twice as fast as stretch A. C, we traveled backwards, but still, the distance that we covered is 20 kilometers, right? The way back was 20 kilometers long. And how long did it take me to bike that? From 2:30 to 5, that's 2.5 hours, which is 8 kilometers per hour. So we found the speeds for these actually 4 stretches of time. Here our speed was 0. Yes? We can also ask ourselves, what is the average speed along this journey, the journey there and back? Average speed is not more complicated than just saying the total distance traveled divided by the total time taken. Yes? Which equals, what is the total distance that we traveled? It's not 20, because 20 got us 20 kilometers away from our house, but we also traveled back. So we traveled a total of 40 kilometers. And how long did that take us in total? Well, this is 0. This is when no time had passed. And we came back home 5 hours later. So it took us 5 hours, 40 kilometers in 5 hours. Yes? And those 5 hours include that whole hour where I just sat there and didn't bike at all, right? 40 divided by 5 is 8. So 8 kilometers per hour is our average speed. Does that make sense? We went 10 kilometers an hour for a while, 20 kilometers an hour for a while, 8 kilometers an hour for a while. You would think, well, that would sort of average out to more than 8, but don't forget about that hour where we just sat there and had a speed of 0 kilometers per hour for an entire hour, right? So that's why the average speed is 8 kilometers per hour. Pretty cool, kind of fun, lots of fun colors.